This dinosaur communicated with its elaborate crest. Late Cretaceous North America, 75 million years ago, a swamp at dawn, mist low over the ferns. And then a note rolls across the water, resonating deeply, like a haunting foghorn that vibrates in your chest before it registers in your ears. It bends the reeds. Every animal in that valley freezes, knowing exactly what just made that sound. That sound came out of a dinosaur's face. Not its throat. Not its lungs exactly. Its face. Its skull. Parasaurolophus had a long, curved, bony tube growing backward off the top of its head. And I need you to understand something right now, at the very start, before we go one step further. That tube worked like a musical instrument. A living, breathing, walking horns. And scientists have actually reconstructed the note it most likely produced. A deep, resonant sound used for communication over long distances in its Cretaceous habitat. Meet Parasaurolophus, a majestic hadrosaur that lived around 76 to 75 million years ago in what is now North America. And buckle up, because this is one of the most beautiful pieces of detective work in the entire history of paleontology, and it's important to get the story right. Look at this animal. Really look at it. A big duck-billed dinosaur, Parasaurolophus, up to 30 feet long from beak to tail, walking through the late Cretaceous like it owns the place. Its broad flat snout resembles a duck's bill. It has a massive barrel-shaped body and powerful hind legs. And then that crest. That absurd, gorgeous, backward-sweeping crest curving off the back of its skull like a comma, like a scythe, like a question mark drawn in bone. On the largest individuals, this crest stretches nearly 3 feet long. The entire skull, including the crest, measures over 5 feet from beak to tip. Imagine a bony curve that long sweeping back off your own head. You would not stop noticing it. Neither could anyone else. So the obvious question, the question everyone asks the second they see it, is the same question paleontologists have been asking for over a century. What is that elaborate crest for? Parasaurolophus, with its distinctive crest, lived around 76 to 75 million years ago in North America. This hollow-crested dinosaur likely used its unique cranial structure as a resonating chamber to produce loud and complex sounds, potentially for communication over long distances or to attract mates. And oh, the answers they came up with. Buckle in, because the initial hypotheses were wildly imaginative. Here is one that stuck around for decades, the snorkel idea. The concept was simple and seemed clever at first glance. Parasaurolophus lived near water sources such as rivers and floodplains, right? So maybe its long crest served as a snorkel to breathe while submerged. This elegant but intuitive notion is completely incorrect. Modern research indicates that Parasaurolophus' cranial crest was likely used for communication purposes, acting like a resonating chamber to produce distinctive sounds or to enhance vocalizations, much like the crests of modern birds are sometimes used. Do you want to know how we know it's right? Because it's a perfect example of how science actually works. You start with an intriguing hypothesis and test it against the evidence. And the evidence never lies. For Parasaurolophus, its distinctive crest is no mere embellishment, but a complex structure that reveals crucial insights into its biology and behavior when examined closely. The problem with the snorkel theory is embarrassingly simple. A snorkel requires an open hole at the top for air intake, but when examining the crest of Parasaurolophus, there is no opening at the tip, it is closed. This closure means that breathing through such a tube would be impossible. The snorkel idea was debunked once researchers closely examined the actual structure of the crest and found it to be anatomically unsuitable for this function. But people did not give up on the diving hypothesis. Oh no! If Parasaurolophus's crest is not functioning as a snorkel, they thought, perhaps it serves as an air storage organ. The idea was that the animal fills its hollow crest with air, and then dives underwater to breathe from this internal reserve like a scuba diver. Sounds cool, doesn't it? However, there is no evidence to support this theory. Parasaurolophus's crest was likely used for communication and display purposes, making loud resonant sounds that carried over long distances. Run the numbers and the results are clear. The volume inside Parasaurolophus's crest is minuscule compared to its massive body size, ranging from 2 to 5 tons. The small air pocket in this hollow crest would be depleted almost immediately, providing insufficient oxygen storage for an animal of that size. With such a limited capacity, the crest could not serve as an effective air reservoir. It was instead likely used for vocalization or display purposes. Thus, the theory of its use as an air tank is debunked, leaving us with a more plausible explanation for this elaborate structure. And here is where it gets even better. When you peel back the misconceptions, what remains is a creature that surpasses imagination. Parasaurolophus, with its incredible cranial crest, stands as a marvel of dinosaur evolution. This hollow-crested hadrosaur used its unique headgear for vocal communication and resonance across vast distances, making it one of the most intriguing dinosaurs in North America during the late Cretaceous period, tilde 76-75 million years ago. Let me tell you what's actually going on inside that crest. It served as a resonating chamber for Parasaurolophus, allowing it to produce distinctive sounds and possibly enhancing its social communication, which is something that really gives me chills every single time. The crest is indeed hollow, but it's not just an empty bony shell. Inside, the nasal passages wind through its length. The air travels in through the nostrils on the snout and then ascends into the elongated crest, looping back down again before finally connecting to the throat. This complex respiratory system likely served multiple functions, including enhanced resonance for vocalization and thermoregulation. Up and back down, a massive channel for airflow running through the elongated crest of its skull. Parasaurolophus used this complex nasal passage to produce deep, resonating calls that could have been heard over long distances, helping it communicate with other members of its species or warn off rivals. Stop and sit with that for a second. This animal had a complex nasal passage coiled within its distinctive crest, extending nearly 3 feet in length before curving back towards the braincase. Why would any creature evolve such an intricate system? What advantage could there be to routing your nostrils through a large bony structure on top of your head? Researchers now believe that this elaborate airway may have played roles in both vocal communication and thermoregulation, allowing Parasaurolophus to produce unique sounds and maintain body temperature efficiently. And the answer, the glorious answer, is resonance. You already know this. You have known it your whole life without realizing it. Why is a trombone loud and low? Why does a tuba boom while a piccolo squeaks? Length. The length of the tube. Longer tubes resonate at lower frequencies, producing deeper sounds. That is the entire principle behind every brass and wind instrument humans have ever built. A trumpet is a tube. An organ pipe is a tube. And a Parasaurolophus crest is a resonating tube built out of bone and connected directly to the animal's airway, allowing it to produce deep, resonant vocalizations that could carry over long distances. Do you see it now? Do you see the magnificent crest of this Parasaurolophus, a herbivorous dinosaur that lived around 76 to 75 million years ago in North America? This unique crest is not just an extravagant display structure, but also served as a resonating chamber for producing deep, booming calls to communicate across long distances and to attract mates. It was a trombone with legs. It was a foghorn that could walk. By pushing air through its elaborate cranial crest, Parasaurolophus could produce deep resonant sounds, much like a pipe organ. The head did not just carry an instrument, the crest itself functioned as the sound-producing apparatus. This intricate structure allowed Parasaurolophus to communicate over long distances, likely for social or reproductive purposes. And here is the part that turns this from a cool idea into hard science, the part I love more than anything. We didn't guess this. We used sophisticated models to study how Parasaurolophus's unique crest functioned, revealing its likely role in vocalization and possibly even echolocation. Researchers CT scanned the fossil crests of Parasaurolophus, mapped out the internal passages, measured every twist and length of that looping airway, and built physical and computer models to simulate the resonating chamber. They treated it like a wind instrument and ran acoustics tests. By asking what sound would resonate through its crest if filled with air, they discovered Parasaurolophus could produce deep, complex vocalizations for communication over long distances. And the fossil answered. The sound produced by Parasaurolophus, a crested hadrosaur, is low and resonant. The main airway resonates around 30 Hz, creating a droning foghorn-like tone with a complex sinus anatomy adding peaks and dips across the low-bass range. This frequency travels enormous distances because low sounds carry better through landscapes. They are less absorbed and scattered by obstacles like trees and hills compared to high-pitched noise. Just as foghorns use deep tones to be heard over long distances, Parasaurolophus could communicate its presence or other important signals across vast areas using these low frequencies. This ability would have been crucial for social interaction in a diverse Cretaceous ecosystem, where visibility was often limited. So picture the whole scene again, but now you understand it. A herd of Parasaurolophus spreads out across a Cretaceous floodplain. Some graze here, some over the ridge, others near the river, out of sight from one another. And one lifts its head, drives air through that long bony crest, and lets out a deep resonant blast that rolls across the entire valley. Every other member hears it, feels it. Whether signaling danger, gathering companions, or attracting mates, Parasaurolophus was broadcasting with its built-in bony structure, calling across the herd. The leading theory is that the Parasaurolophus's crest was used for communication, allowing it to vocalize and signal across long distances. This complex structure enabled sounds far more sophisticated than a simple bark, enhancing its ability to communicate with other members of its species. But we are not even done, because the crest was almost certainly doing double duty, serving both as a resonating chamber for vocalizations and as a distinctive visual display feature, with evidence clearly preserved in the fossil record. Look at a bunch of Parasaurolophus skulls side by side and you notice something immediately. The crests are not all the same. Some are longer, some curve harder or straighter, and each variation hides a unique internal structure. This diversity is not random. It reflects distinct species within the genus. The straighter, simpler crested form is P. walkeri *, while P. tubison boasts an enormous long crest with a complex internal anatomy. Meanwhile, P. ceatocrostatus has a small, sharply curved crest. Within each species, the crest changes dramatically as the animal matures. A young Parasaurolophus has a stubby, rounded crest that stretches and curves into its adult form. Many researchers also suspect sexual dimorphism in crest size and shape, though this remains debated. So while the crest is famously used for vocal communication, it's equally a visual signal for species recognition and possibly mate selection. Think about what that means out on the floodplain. You are a Parasaurolophus. Across the mudflat there is a herd of duck-billed dinosaurs, and some of them are your kind, while others belong to related species like Corythosaurus or Lambeosaurus, each with their own distinctive crests. How do you know who is who? How do you find your own kind, your own species, the right mate? You look at the crest. The shape and size of these elaborate structures serve as a badge signaling not only identity, but also age and social status. Species recognition, etched in bone and visible from afar, helps ensure that Parasaurolophus pairs with its own kind amidst the diversity of hadrosaurs sharing the same habitat. So now the full picture snaps into focus. The crest was both a visual signal and an auditory device, fusing sight and sound into a single spectacular structure. It declared who I am and announced my presence all at once. That is not a snorkel. That is not a scuba tank. The crest of Parasaurolophus served as an elaborate communication system, acting like both a billboard and a foghorn to broadcast signals over long distances. Tell me that is not the coolest thing you have heard all week. Now let me pull you back and show you the rest of the animal, because Parasaurolophus was not just a fancy crest riding on a boring body. This was a highly evolved herbivore, with an intricate dental system designed for grinding tough plant material. The details are truly remarkable, showcasing how this dinosaur adapted to its environment through complex anatomy and behavior. Parasaurolophus was a hadrosaur or duck-billed dinosaur, belonging to one of the most successful groups of plant-eaters in the late Cretaceous period. These animals absolutely dominated the landscapes with their unique adaptations, including advanced dental mechanisms that allowed them to process tough vegetation efficiently. Unlike human teeth, Parasaurolophus teeth were self-sharpening and constantly replaced, enabling them to maintain a steady diet of abrasive plant material. Hadrosaurs like Parasaurolophus carried hundreds of teeth. Hundreds! Packed together into tight interlocking blocks called dental batteries, with something like 300 teeth crammed into a single jaw. Picture not a row of individual teeth but a solid grinding surface, a whole pavement of teeth cemented together into one continuous rasping plate, working like a self-sharpening file. This animal did not gently nibble leaves. It ground vegetation into pulp between two moving slabs of interlocked teeth, milling the toughest and grittiest plant matter the late Cretaceous could offer. And here is the wild part. Those teeth wore down from constantly grinding silica-laden plants. So what did Parasaurolophus do? It replaced them. As the top teeth wore out, fresh new teeth were already growing up to take their place. This process continued throughout its life, ensuring a constant supply of functional teeth without ever needing intervention like dental care. Unlike humans who have one set of adult teeth and no replacements, Parasaurolophus had an unstoppable conveyor belt of replacement teeth feeding into the battery for its entire life. Nature built it a self-repairing grinding mill that kept running smoothly with each new tooth growing in as needed. And how did it move? Both ways. Parasaurolophus was incredibly flexible. It could rear up and run on its two powerful hind legs when it needed speed, much like modern iguanid lizards. And it could drop down onto all fours to graze low vegetation and move comfortably across the ground, which is likely how it spent most of its browsing time in its late Cretaceous habitat. Whether on two legs or four, Parasaurolophus was a big, adaptable herbivore built for both travel and feeding its massive body constantly. So assemble the whole creature in your mind. A duck-billed giant up to 30 feet long, with hundreds of ever-growing teeth for milling tough plants into paste. Its body shifts effortlessly between bipedal and quadrupedal gaits. Rising from the back of its skull is a magnificent looping bony crest, broadcasting deep foghorn notes across the herd and flashing its identity far and wide. And now go back to the beginning. Back to the swamp at dawn. Back to that low, rolling sound bending the reeds across the misty water. You know what made it now. You know it was not a monster clearing its throat. It was an animal singing through a loop of bone coiled on top of its head, a Parasaurolophus, a hadrosaur from 76 million years ago in North America. A note we have actually reconstructed. A voice from 76 million years ago that we have brought back, tube by tube, twist by twist, calculated straight off the fossil. Think about that. We found a crest buried in stone for 75 million years, and we worked out the sound it produced. We know near enough what a Parasaurolophus sounded like, a deep, resonant, foghorn-like call echoing across its prehistoric world. That is not a wild guess, that is science interpreting the musical notes etched into bones. They told us it was a snorkel or an air tank, but Parasaurolophus's crest was neither. This elaborate crest served as a resonating structure for vocalizations, acting like a living instrument that could project sounds across vast distances in the Cretaceous landscape. Modern studies suggest these calls were likely used for communication and possibly for species recognition, echoing through time to resonate with us today. Look at that crest one more time. It is not a weird bump. It is one of the oldest wind instruments the planet ever grew, used to call out across the Cretaceous floodplains. Every time Parasaurolophus trumpeted, its resonant calls echoed through the valley, signaling its presence to other members of its species and proclaiming its identity in late Cretaceous North America. Some fossils give you bones. This one gives you a song. This has been Extinction Files.